All right, so now we are live on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, on our KGRADB radio. We're a Spreaker, we're TikTok, Instagram. We're here. We are. Here we are. It is Paranormal Fridays. Paranormal Friday is what we're going to be discussing today, and I hope that you're going to enjoy it as much as I am. So first of all, let me just, of course, get a few things out there so that you can know what's going on here. I am Bishop James Long with the United States Old Catholic Church. If you want to go to my website, perfectly fine, please do. However, before we do that, well, let's do this first, Mr. Producer. I want you to go to the website that produces the shows on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. It is kgradb.com. So, folks, please do make sure you go to their website, KGRAD as in dog, DB as in bicycle.com. Now, they have paranormal shows there all the time. That's what they air, paranormal shows. And they have some really cool shows there. Now, what's really great about this place is you can just subscribe, and it's very inexpensive anyway. However, if you subscribe, make sure you put Bishop as your promo code, because you're going to get 30% off your subscription. Like I said, it's already affordable as it is, but they have some really fantastic shows there. Yep, this show airs right there on that platform, and we are honored to be a part of that, the KGRADB family. So again, kgradb.com. Put Bishop as your promo code. Very, very important. Get your 30% off. Now, if you want to go to my website, very simple. People always ask, aren't you the guy from Ghost Adventures of Bobby Mackey's? Yes, I'm the guy, but I've done more than just Ghost Adventures. But anyway, you can go to bishopjameslong.com. That is the website, bishopjameslong.com. Very simple. I do teach angelology, paranormal studies, genealogy, and demonology all online. So feel free to go there. I know the sound may not be so perfect on the Instagram, but I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that next week. So don't worry about that. Or tomorrow, I'll fix that. I'll have a lapel microphone, and I'll connect it to the iPhone, and it'll sound just a little bit better. So just bear with me for tonight, because it's the first time I set this up this way. So anyway, bishopjameslong.com. Now, if you want to know about the church, very easy, guys. Just simply go to the church's website, usocc.org. There you go. That's the church's website, usocc.org. And if you go to the site, it will tell you pretty much anything you need to know. Now, we have night prayer tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. Anyone's invited. And what you can do is go to bishopjameslong.com, or there on Spreaker on the URL on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGRADB. Or you can just go bishopjameslong.com. Scroll down to the very bottom where it says night prayer, and just click the link. It'll take you right there. Right there. That's all you have to do. It's on Spreaker, so it's audio only, just to give you a heads up. Okay. Now, here's the deal, folks. Lots of water. So people always ask, have you lost a lot of weight? Yep, I have. So let's get that out, because people always ask me that. Yes, I've lost a lot of weight. I did that on purpose. No, I'm not sick. I don't know why. I'm not sick. I'm purposely trying to lose weight. As a matter of fact, today it felt great. It felt great. I was able to finally lose enough weight to where I'm able to jog. I love jogging. Man, I loved it. So I was able to jog my 5 miles today. And it's really raining here in Kentucky, so I couldn't get out and run today. But I jumped on the treadmill, and there's scenery. There's this treadmill scenery that you can watch. So I had my television there, and I was able to watch it. And I tell you what, when I don't exercise, I feel terrible. I just feel terrible. But it felt really good to just jog for 5 miles. So normally I walk, but I said, you know what? I'm going to try jogging, because I have stenosis and degenerative disc disease. So my back is not the greatest from playing football, but it was good. It was good. So today I was able to get my jog in there for 5 miles. So I drink a lot of water. I drink about 12 of these a day. And these are 16.9 fluid ounces. So I drink about 12. Sometimes on bad days, 10. But usually 10 or 12. And I watch what I eat. And I feel great. I know carbs, sugars are the enemy. At least for me, they are. Now, So let's just say that. Yep. I am losing weight. I'm doing it on purpose, and I feel great. You can do it. I know several of you out there who might be, struggling with weight. Folks, you can do it. You can do it, and you owe it to yourself. Okay. I do believe in aliens. Now let me just give a couple things. Well, thank you very much, Jax. I appreciate you being on Clapper too. You know what, Jax? Let me see if I can make you a moderator. Because this is follow back, yeah. Manage. Make a moderator. Oh, I can. Confirm. Hopefully that's okay, Jax. I'm sorry I did that without even asking. Okay, so let me just say this. First of all, to give everybody a heads up. TikTok. You guys know, everybody knows now that it looks like TikTok is going to be banned in the United States. That is, you're right, Hedy. I agree. But that does appear to be what's going to happen. Or at least some form of moderation. There's going to be something going on with TikTok. No doubt about it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I got to say, I don't really like making a lot of political statements, but I'll say this. I don't want politicians making decisions for me. I'm an adult. I can make the decision as to whether or not I put an app on my phone or don't. But nonetheless, okay. I have my own personal opinions as to why that's occurring, but nonetheless. So let me say this for those of you who are watching me on YouTube. I have a new URL. So you're going to have to make sure that you subscribe to my new YouTube channel. The reason is I did it to make life easier for everybody. So let me put it on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter so that you know what it is. I'm asking everyone to please go to YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Subscribing is free. I mean, why not? But anyway, let me just put that in there. So there we go. That is it's very simple. YouTube.com/C/Bishop James Long. All one word, Bishop James Long. I used to have a slash official, but it was just too confusing. So I'm giving you YouTube, I'm giving you heads up. Don't get mad if eventually I'm going to eventually stop airing this show on that YouTube channel. So you got to make sure you subscribe to the new YouTube. Please do that, everybody. Okay. Oh, you love Clapper? Oh, there's Shannon. So let me just follow back. Sorry, this is make a moderator, confirm. There we go. Okay. Now, so just heads up on TikTok. Okay. Please make sure you guys subscribe. It does make me upset. Thank you very much. Oh, please, that's very kind of you. It does make me upset because we work so hard at building a community on TikTok, and I have really grown to enjoy and appreciate the community that we built there. And just like that, it can be gone. And I just don't like that. I don't like that. And to think about, there are people that have millions of followers on TikTok, and it's gone. It'll be gone. It just, I don't know. Yep, sure. Let me just put it in here. 1 second, everybody. Someone's asking me on Instagram, because there will be things that I will be doing on YouTube that will only be airing on YouTube. I'm going to be going to the Gates of Hell Cemetery, and I'll be airing that, or actually placing that on YouTube only, because it's going to be more than a 10-minute video. So that's going to be a series that I'll be doing. Thank you very much. That's kind of you. Hold on, I've got to write all this down. Got to do that. There we go. So there it is. YouTube.com/C/Bishop James Long. Okay. So that is what we're going to be doing. Yeah, I haven't been able to do it on YouTube yet because it's been pouring down rain. So what I'm going to be doing is I've talked about the Gates of Hell Cemetery a lot. And the Gates of Hell Cemetery, it's a pretty intense place. I don't know if that's the right channel that you're on right now. I don't know. So you have to go to the one that I just gave you. I have no way of knowing. I don't know what. Right now, it's not airing. Right now, this show is not airing, I don't believe, on YouTube.com/C/Bishop James Long. I don't think it's airing there yet, but it will be. So I'll give you plenty of time. Now, TikTok, I'm sorry, I have to turn the comments off on TikTok for the first hour. But I promise you, on the top of the hour, I'll turn it back on. I'll answer your demonology questions. I'll answer your paranormal questions. I'll answer if you have any paranormal questions, if you have anything that related to, we'll get to that on the top of the hour at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But for the first hour, I am going to talk about a topic that I have been wanting to talk about for a long, long time. And people ask me all the time, is there one place where you would want to go to that's international? Is there any place? What is the bucket list? There's no doubt in my mind. The one location that I have always wanted to go to, and probably will never get there because it's so far away, it's in Japan. And it is the Aokigahara Forest. Aokigahara Forest. Now, we're going to talk about that in just a second. So that's why I turn the comments off in TikTok, because sometimes TikTok can be a little rude with their comments, because this is a very serious topic. So let me just say this first. Anyone listening to this, anyone watching this, and for those of you who don't know, I have a video here, I have a camera here, I have a camera here, and I have a camera here. Okay, so please understand there's a lot of cameras going on this show. But anyone listening to this or watching this show at this time, if you're thinking of self-harm, please reconsider. Don't stay quiet if you're having thoughts. Reach out to someone, genuinely seek help. Think about those you'd be leaving behind. And there's a reason why I'm saying this. I want you to hit pause, reevaluate the potential of your life and how that could change. Volunteer to youth or homeless shelter. Teach others to not make the mistakes you've made, or talk to someone who can provide a different point of view. Just hold on a little longer and reach out. So there's a reason why I'm telling you this, because of this particular topic tonight. I want you, if you're having thoughts about ending life, don't. There is help. And if you don't think you're loved, you're wrong, because if you have no one in your life that loves you, well, I love you. We may not know each other, but I love you. And so if you're having those thoughts about suicide, I want you to contact the National Suicide Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Okay? So 1-800-273-8255. There is help. So if you know someone who's listening, who's struck, I've had friends who've unfortunately thought that was the only decision. But if you're listening, and if you're watching, and you know someone who's having these thoughts, talk to them, to help them out, and give them that number. Okay. Here's the presentation. An alarming number of, and let me just tell you about this forest. I'm not going to sensationalize this. I don't believe in that. I like teaching and educating people about topics. I don't like just going, oogie boogie and say boo. And, to me, I think I like to teach. So I wanted to give you a history lesson about this forest that you may have never, ever heard before. It's an alarming number of Japanese citizens have taken a dark pilgrimage to Aokigahara Forest, more commonly known as Japan's suicide forest, to end their lives, most commonly by hanging themselves from tree branches, followed by taking an overdose of sleeping pills. Obviously, this is not for children. An untold number have wandered in and have never wandered out. Now, beginning in the 1960s, between approximately 10 and 30 people each year spent their last living moments in this forest on the base of Mount Fuji. And the number of annual suicides has greatly increased. Now, in 2003, 105 bodies were discovered. Comprehensive data on lives lost in the forest doesn't seem to have been released since 2003, which it's not a good sign. So why here? Why at this forest? Well, there's a small patch. Why is a small patch of serene forest the second most popular suicide destination in the world? Thought to trail only the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, by the way. So how common is suicide in Japan? Well, all right, so we know that a lot of people have taken their lives in the suicide forest. But what about Japan in general? Well, let's give a little suicide context to the land of the rising sun. Very important. As recently as of 2017, Japan's suicide rate was the 6th highest in the world, and second worst among 8 major industrialized nations. The number of suicides in Japan was 21,897 in 2016, which was the lowest total in 22 years. But suicide was still the leading cause of death among people between the ages of 15 to 39 age group. So why is Japanese suicide so high? Well, here, this is where you need to understand, and this is where education is important, okay? And this is why I want to teach you guys this. There's a cultural view, a different perspective from Japanese to the American viewpoint of suicide. First of all, there's a cultural view. Suicide is viewed very differently in Japan than it is in the United States. Yoshinori Cho, the director of the psychiatric department of Tikio University, explains how while in America, suicide is almost culturally viewed as a shameful, cowardly, selfish, sinful act. It can be seen as, but it can be seen as an honorable way out in Japan, thanks to Japan's samurai tradition. So let's talk about what's called the seppuku. So let's talk about what is the seppuku. The seppuku is the samurai. And in the ancient samurai act of ceremonial suicide, it was actually first recorded in 1180. They lived by a very strict code, the samurai. And you have to understand, when you're talking about a samurai, the code was very strict. Honor was important. So that was much based on the old hardcore phrase, death before dishonor. The samurai culture developed in the 12th and 13th centuries, distinct from the culture of the rest of the imperial Japan. They became these groups of warrior monks, so to speak, in a way. And the samurai were bound by the code of the Bushido to kill themselves rather than bring dishonor to themselves or their or the daimya or the shogun, their families, their community. If captured by the enemy was imminent, they would commit seppuku rather than be taken. And if their daimya was killed, they would commit seppuku. If they had brought dishonor on themselves in a number of ways, done something unforgivable by the code, they would commit seppuku. So in 1945, after the defeat in World War II, many Japanese military officials and civilians committed voluntary seppuku out of resolute sense of pride and honor that refused to bend the enemy. So again, you have to you cannot talk about the suicide forest without understanding the culture. That's absolutely crucial. So let me just say this. Again, I'm going to stress this. Suicide is not the answer, but I'm trying to teach and explain how it's seen differently in Japan, okay? So here's how that ritual would go. If time allowed and their enemy wasn't kicking in the doors and about to capture you. So prior to the event, the samurai would write a death poem because it was felt that the person facing imminent death was believed to have special insight into the nature of death and the value of life. So then a large white cushion would be placed and witnesses would arrange themselves discreetly to one side. Now the samurai wearing a white kimono would kneel on the pillow in a formal style, and behind, to the left of the samurai, knelt his assistant. A servant would place a wooden table before the samurai, which would contain wine, cup, some other items, writing utensils, as well as the kozuku or kozuka, which is the blade. Although the samurai would be allowed to use his own sword if he preferred. Now, before committing seppuku, a samurai would write a death poem, which was considered important as a person facing imminent death was believed to have special insight in the nature of death. So the poem would be graceful. It would be natural, usually in the theme of transient emotions. Even mentioning the samurai's impending death in the poem would be considered poor form and uncouth. So this was also important for the samurai, as the poem would serve as a written glimpse into his nobility of character and how he wished to be remembered after his death. So according to tradition here, when he felt ready, the samurai would then loosen the folds of his kimono, exposing his stomach. He would then lift the knife with one hand and unsheath it with the other, setting the sheath to one side. And after mentally preparing himself, he would drive the knife into the left side of his stomach, then draw it across the right. He would then turn the blade in his wound and bring it upward. Okay, most samurai did not have to endure the last agony. as the assistant would honestly, they would behead them at the very first sign of pain. But why the stomach? Well, I thought that was interesting. So let me tell you why. As the human spirit was believed to actually reside in the stomach. So slitting the stomach open was considered to be the most straightforward and bravest way to die. So therefore, this act was a privilege in their culture reserved for the samurai. Commoners, by the way, were allowed to hang or drown themselves. And there were samurai women, by the way, called urebushi gaisha. It's very onabu geishai. They would cut their they'd cut their throats, unfortunately. Only a male samurai was allowed to commit seppuku. Anyway, the real samurai tried to keep their composure, even on the brink of death, and show their strength and full control of his mind and body in the last moment. So any previous reputation of a samurai would be meaningless if he were to die in an unseemly manner. You understand? Now, of course, those were circumstances where there was not enough time. There was not enough time for the samurai to undergo the whole ritual. Therefore, acts such as cutting his own throat or throwing himself from a running horse or sword, those were allowed in those cases. Kamikazes. Now, the kamikaze were a group of young Japanese pilots who flew suicide missions aimed at taking out as many of the enemy as possible. They would crash their planes, never ejecting themselves in an attempt at survival, into Allied ships. Most of you know they did this during the attack on Pearl Harbor. About 3,800 kamikaze pilots died during the war, and more than 7,000 Navy personnel were killed by kamikaze attacks. Now, while many other countries label kamikaze pilots insane heretics or fanatics, the Japanese viewed them as determined heroes who sacrificed all for the security of their family and fellow citizens. Okay? Now, they were voluntarily ending their lives with honor in their mind, in their cultural mind. Remember, I'm teaching you culture. It's very important to understand this. Yeah, it is. This is known as the suicide forest. And that wasn't that long ago. This was in the 1940s. This, again, reveals a very different perception regarding suicide that we typically have in the United States. The Japanese would kamikaze. The Japanese word kamikaze is usually translated as divine wind. They trained to kill themselves in battle. I wondered, what did they believe awaited them on the other side of death? Well, the main religion historically in Japan is Shintoism. It's the world's 5th largest religion, and it's a religion of ritual and tradition. And one of the core beliefs in the Shinto religion is the idea that everything possesses a spiritual essence or energy called kami. So mountains, rivers, places, animals, people are said to have kami inside. Now, Shinto beliefs about death and the afterlife are often considered dark and negative. The old traditions describe death as a dark, underground realm with a river separating the living from the dead. The images are very similar to Greek mythology and the concept of Hades and to Norse mythology and the concept of hell. So, Shinto traditions lean heavily on the concepts of the presence of kami and not reincarnation. The spiritual energy or kami in everyone is released and recycled at the time of death. So the spirits live in another world, the most sacred of which called the other world of heaven. And these other worlds are not seen as paradise or punishment. And again, I know people are asking me, why are you explaining this? Because I can't explain the suicide forest without you understanding the culture. Okay? So instead, the worlds are simply where the spirits reside. They can connect and visit the present world when people correctly perform rituals and festivals. So Shintoists believe that the ancestral spirits will protect their descendants. So the prayers and rituals performed by the living honor the dead and memorialize them. So in return, the spirits of the dead offer protection and encouragement for the living. Shintoism also views that some individuals live an exemplary life, that when they die, a noble warrior's death, and you make it basically to a VIP section of the afterlife. There was an article in Psychology Today. It was titled, "An Asian Honor and Suicide, the Difference Between East and West." It was 2014. It talks about how the West, given Christianity's view of suicide, has been long shrouded in shame, and is actually viewed as one of the most grievous sins that you can commit because you can't ask for forgiveness after you've committed it. But in Eastern cultures, It has been seen as a way of atonement or restoring honor, like the samurai, and a way of protecting a family's legacy from being tarnished. So even as by the way, as recently as 2007, after a high-profile cabinet minister, he killed himself in Japan while under investigation for financial issues. The governor of Tokyo called him a true samurai for preserving his honor because he committed suicide. Again, we have to understand culture. So it's just not looked the same way at all. It's one of the ultimate sins and shameful deed in the United States, whereas in traditional Japanese faith, it erases the misdeeds and wrongs of the life lived and leads to an enlightened soul. Japan is trying to change, by the way, and they are changing this cultural attitude. In the early months of this year, actually in 2018, Japan announced that it was rolling out a 5-year plan aimed at increasing suicide prevention, and they've done a good job. So now that you know a little bit about Japan's historical attitude towards suicide, we can peek now into the specifics of the suicide forest itself. Okay. Aokigahara Forest, or known as the Suicide Forest, and yes, there's a movie called The Forest and Sea of Trees. Now, there's a movie on both, based, in the forest. Lies at the base of Mount Fuji. It's known under the much less ominous name of Sea of Trees because of the high density of trees that are green year-round. Mount Fuji is Japan's holy mountain and national icon. It is the tallest peak in the country. Its pristine, snow-capped, familiar shape is painted and imprinted virtually on everything you see on images, on flags, cups, posters, everywhere. It's majestic. It's beautiful. The image conjures a sense of awe that transcends time and culture. Hello, everybody. So while it's only 60 miles from the congested streets of Tokyo, it feels as though it's a world apart from the modern setting of the city. Now, Buddhists have also held that it is a powerful and spiritual place, but the Shinto, they're the ones who hold it in the highest regard. Remember, the Shinto religion have 8 major shrines at the base of Mount Fuji, and hundreds of smaller ones throughout the area. The earliest of these dates, all the way back to 806, predating those samurai we spoke about earlier. Climbing the mountain itself, Mount Fuji, was considered an important pilgrimage. And as such, it required the guidance of a holy monk or a priest for many generations. And women, by the way, were not allowed there until about 1945, as they were believed by the Shinto to be unclean due to menstruation and childbirth. But today, thousands of people climb Mount Fuji's slope for several hours in late summer, usually at night, to see the sun rise from the astounding view of the peak. It is beautiful. It's considered a sacred, powerful site. And it's said that if you have a dream about it, you will have good fortune. And the Aokigahara Forest lies beneath its northwestern side. So to get to this isolated forest by train, it consists of about 12 square miles of dense, beautiful forest that grew atop the hardened lava of Mount Fuji's last major eruption back in 864. Now, the lava rock, it makes up the ground. It absorbs sound so well. It creates a hushed environment. It's eerily quiet. If you were to yell for help, it's unlikely that anyone would hear you. On the path, now there's a path that you can take. You need to stay on the path, because if you go off the path, it's very dangerous, because the grounds they have crevices and there's holes, and you could easily, if you run, you could easily break a leg. Easily. It's very dangerous. Now, mostly park workers and, unfortunately, people wanting to commit suicide go to this forest. Not many locals go there. Local children, by the way, they're often advised to avoid it, because it's believed by many to be a haunted place, full of dark forces. Now, what's interesting about this, and what many people don't know, the area first started being called the Suicide Forest in 1960s, when tourists visiting the area began to find corpses while on their hunt for gorgeous views of Mount Fuji. Within a couple of quick decades, volunteers, police, park rangers, journalists, they were regularly surveying the grounds in search of those who are contemplating suicide, to try to talk them out of it. and the remains of those who had made their final decision, to help and to remove the body. Now, if you go there for any reason, when you get there, I have friends who have been there, and they keep saying, "Oh, Bishop Long, you got to go there." Folks, look, again, as I said in the very beginning, people ask me all the time, is there one place international that you would love to go? That would be all-time dream place to go? No question. Aokigahara Forest. Number one on my list. When you get there, you'll find the forest has a small paid parking lot that too often has one or several abandoned cars. I'll probably, folks, I promise you I'll get to your questions. And again, please understand, remember, thank you there. That's very nice, Christian. Remember, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 different computers going all at the same time. So a lot of people are asking questions now. So I'll get to them. I just want to do this presentation first. So hundreds of cars pulled into that lot with their owners, only to eventually leaving without them. A trail leads from the lot into the forest, and there's a sign along the trail that actually says, because there's so many people who committed suicide, it actually says your life is a precious gift from your parents. Please think about your parents, siblings, and children. Talk about your troubles. It proceeds to advise you to contact the Suicide Prevention Association, because they've had to put a sign up because so many people were going there to commit suicide. Now, if you decide to press on and journey into the breathtaking greenery of the cypress, the hemlock, pine trees, you may find some of its natural inhabitants on the way. It's a bit unlikely. So believe it or not, there are Asian black bear. They're very, very rare there. Very rare. So you'll see mice, bats, deer, fox, rabbits, squirrels, birds. They quietly share the environment made by these beautiful area. However, when the sun is up in the forest, you'll hear sometimes the quiet, sometimes chatter of the birds. But at night, it's a different place altogether. It is deathly silent. Occasional flowers and mushrooms can be found amongst the ferns and moss-covered rocks on the forest floor. Tree roots and fallen limbs snake through the undergrowth over and around the rocks and small caverns, create a creeping sense of entanglement. The first kilometer or so of hiking, which takes you closer to the mountain itself, it's littered, unfortunately, with remnants of other hikers, despite the constant upkeep of officials working there. The trail itself is mostly clean, but ribbons, quite terrible, ribbons and ropes are left tied to trees from previous visitors who marked their way back to the trail. Small pieces of garbage, cut credit cards, empty blister packs from pills, the occasional broken foam, they're easy to spot. The further you venture, keep in mind, the further you venture out into the forest, past the caves, the more pristine the forest becomes, and also the more foreboding it feels. If you choose to ignore all suggestions and venture off the path, it can get very, very easy to get lost. So it all starts to look the same, which is why you need to know where you came from. So given that roughly 100 bodies have being found each year, by the way, officials have quit posting the number to try to downplay, to let people know don't go there to do that. But the longer you wander lost through the forest, the greater your odds of encountering a corpse. Most of the suicides have hanged themselves, which is nearly always fatal. And the majority of the rest choose death by overdose, which isn't nearly as fatal, but there's a good chance that some of those who don't die right away from an overdose, people who may have changed their mind, end up still dying because in their drugged and disoriented state, they can't figure out how to make it back to civilization before it's too late. Thank you very much, Stevens. I appreciate that. Okay. So again, I'm not going to read comments right now. I'll read it briefly, but please, I'm not ignoring you. I promise you. I'm just very laser focused on this presentation. And then I'll get your questions. I promise you, I'll get your questions on the top of the hour. But right now, I'm really focused on presenting the most thorough and thought-provoking presentation I can on this forest. while respectfully talking about a very serious topic. So the Japanese government is well aware of the high number of suicides in the forest. Short of just no longer letting anyone to the forest, there isn't much that can be done to stop it. There are signs everywhere saying, please don't do this. If you want to see any of this for yourself, there's quite a few documentaries online about the suicide forest. Actually, there's a 20-minute Vice documentary, I've seen this, on the suicide forest where a cameraman follows a nature guard, Azusa Hayona, on a walk through some of the grounds. Hayona is a geologist who works in the forest as an environmental protector. He regularly goes on suicide patrol in search of bodies and people to kind of talk to him. He lived in the area for 30 years and has personally found over 100 corpses in 20 years prior to the Vice piece. So Hayona claims, as many of the local rangers do, that he can likely guess who is coming for a nature hike and who's coming with indecision and doubt, and who's coming to never leave. Those who enter the forest and are contemplating suicide, but yet haven't made up their mind, often bring a tent and use a rope or a ribbon to mark their way back to the trail as they venture off to a secluded part of the wood to contemplate their fate. So in other words, what they do is they tie a ribbon around a tree right off the path, and they go into the forest because you can easily get lost. And if they decide not to do it, then they can go back. They can follow the trail out by the ribbon. So their informal markers are everywhere in the forest. The occasional cut noose can also be found on the ground from those who made their decision. So as Hayona leads viewers on a walk through the forest, often off trail, he encounters an abandoned tent that appears to have been there for a few days. Hayona hopes that they're off walking, still deciding that they still have hope, pointing out that if a body hadn't been found, the tent site would have been cleaned up. So nearby, he finds a creepy stuffed doll upside down to a tree. The doll wears a striped suit. Its face is ripped up, and nails are driven through its feet and hands. It's been crucified in an inverted position. Hayona says that the doll is a sign of contempt for society, and that a curse has been driven into the tree with the nails. So a short walk, by the way, leads him to a wooden sign nailed to another tree, presumably the same person that reads, "Suicide note, I came here because nothing good ever happened in my life. Don't look for me." And their name is also listed. So further into his patrol, Hayona finds another tent in the middle of the trail, but this one has someone inside. Now, park geologist Hayona approaches and asks the man inside if everything is okay. He lets him know that he's not allowed to camp there, and that he is a nature guard on suicide patrol. The man apologizes, but he doesn't leave. Hayona asks him to take time to think and be positive. He tells the stranger that it was nice to meet him, and he shows him how to leave the park. He's worried because the guy didn't look like a hiker. He wasn't dressed for the part. And shortly after this, Hayona finds a perfectly intact skeleton on the ground and shows clear disappointment and sadness. The bones are resting inside the clothes last worn by the person who ended their life. The feet are still neatly tucked in their laced boots. It's pretty eerie. The shoes look brand new. There are clean burgundy and black rubber soled hiking boots, and there's an empty water bottle near the guy's left hand. It looks like some guy laid on his back, took some pills, drank him down with a little bottle of water, fell asleep, and never woke up. And then his body was not found until 2 years later. Nothing but a skeleton and clothes. That's what makes it strange. No flesh at all, just bones. It's a blatant reminder of how fragile and temporary we are. The whiteness and cleanliness of the bones also make it look fake somehow, like a Halloween show display, but this is real. And Hayona lets the cameraman know that someone will notify to properly take care of the body. So near the end of the film, Hayona comments that you think you die alone, but that's not true, as he shows the viewers bouquet of flowers and boxed chocolates left in remembrance of another victim of suicide. It's a short film. The impact is huge if you haven't seen it. The fact that there are so many people ending their lives in that forest, it's a virtual guarantee that you will encounter something like this by merely venturing off the trail. It's a travesty. How did this forest become such a magnet for death and despair? Why this forest? Why Aokigahara? I mean, it's a beautiful location. Why? Well, we know that suicide is viewed differently in Japan We know that a lot of suicides occur there, but why? Why? What was the point? Why, of all the locations available in your country plagued by suicide, Aokigahara Forest is the location of choice? Well, there's a reason for this. The Black Sea of Trees, the answer may lie in a pair of books. The first being in 1960s. There is a book called The Black Sea of Trees. It's in Japanese, by the way, so it hasn't been translated into English. It's about a young lovers venturing into Aokigahara Forest to end their lives. It's reportedly written in a romantic tone that actually glorifies the protagonist's actions. And in addition to this book, that may explain the reason why people began to kill themselves in the forest, another book published in 1993. And I'm not going to tell you the name of the book because I don't want to promote that book. But it's a ridiculous book. They shouldn't do it. It's about how one would commit suicide. Again, I'm not telling you the title. It's absurd that someone would do that. But they did. But again, it's for cultural. You have to understand the culture. So it lists the options of committing suicide and then actually ranks them in their effectiveness. Anyway, it's a controversial book. And sadly, there have been many books found along with bodies at the scene of suicides, including these books. And it's very sad. There have been several cases of the suicides of junior high school students. So it sold millions of copies. Anyway, so the authorities are tightening the control and the surveillance of individuals. I have to speak even more loudly that we can choose whatever we want to live and how we want to live our lives, but there is always a better way. So the question is well, again, Hetty, that's what I'm talking about. That's why I've spent so much time explaining suicide and how it's viewed differently culturally. I put 30 minutes into explaining. You have to understand the cultural difference is completely different than our perspective of suicide. So that's why understanding the culture aspect, you got to do that. Now, no, this is in Japan. So is this book to blame? Can literature really have such a dramatic impact? Oh, you can say yes or no. Again, folks, I'll get to your questions in a second. Please hold on to questions. Just hold on for a second. So let's start talking about the Ubaste. So Ubaste, legend has it, in times of hardships, and this is true, and this is why this is really, really troubling. Legend has it that in times of hardships, families would actually take their elderly, their sick, otherwise dying family members to the forest and abandon them, leaving them to die. It's actually translated as granny dumping, believe it or not. It was the practice of poor citizens that actually they brought their senile elders to mountaintops because they could no longer afford their care. When families were starving due to famine and drought, difficult choices had to be made to ensure the survival of some rather than all those within the home perishing in a slow, agonizing starvation. An elder would be chosen from the family, or they would even volunteer on their own to alleviate the hunger of others by eliminating one mouth to feed. So again, understand the culture. They saw that as honorable. So in nearly all the stories collected about this little known piece of Japanese history, it's nearly always a grandmother who either volunteers or is taken out to the woods. In various versions of the tale, a young son even carries an elderly woman on his back into the forest, and she marks his way home by leaving sticks and twigs on the ground for him to follow back. That's where the stream comes from. So the son would then leave her in some isolated area on or near the mountain, and she would wait until her slow and eventually death came to the hands of the elements, thus ridding the family of a burden and ensuring the survival of the next generation. They were seen as honorable samurai. And according to 2017, a Business Insider Circle, not only was this definitely a thing, it's actually making a comeback. Today, amid Japan's demographic and economic woes, a form of ubaste is happening all over again. Modern day granny dumping doesn't involve hauling seniors to the sides of mountains anymore, but driving them to hospitals or the offices of nearby charities, essentially giving them up for adoption. It really is sad. But to think of the amount of granny dumping that has gone on in the Aikogahara forest over the years, creating a bunch of negative spiritual energy, the vengeful attraction, seeking those to end their troubles. So sounds kind of crazy, but not crazy to the Japanese. Just like the act of suicide is looked at differently in Japanese culture than it is in the United States and most other Western countries. The concept of ghosts, by the way, is viewed differently as well, in that it's much more acceptable culturally to believe in ghosts in Japan than it is here in the United States. For example, listen to this. Many of you may not know this. In 2013, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe displayed a voice reluctance to move into his official residence because he felt a bad presence and he thought it was haunted, and had several of his predecessors believed it as well. But he wasn't mocked by his citizens. In fact, people basically thought, well, if it's haunted, then he shouldn't have to live there. Could you imagine if someone was elected president and say, nope, it's haunted, I don't want to go there? People would think that they lost the marbles here in the United States. But a lot of Japanese citizens have no problem believing in ghosts, and they don't think of them that they're all very nice. So let's talk about the Yuri. The Yuri. These are vengeful ghosts. Spiritualists in Japan firmly believe that the forest is haunted by the Yuri. It's vengeful spirits of the dead. It is thought that the trees themselves have soaked in the malevolent energy produced by countless suicides and traumatic deaths that have transpired in the forest. The Yuri are believed to be a particular type of ghost that has long been held as real in Japanese culture. The belief is that Yuri come from people who died under duress, extreme sadness, or anger, and were often the victims of murder or suicide. They are the most dangerous of all ghosts and are believed to usually, but not always, be women, as traditional Japanese culture views women as being more emotional and therefore more capable of producing the extreme emotions required for the creation of these spirits. Again, understanding culture. Yuri, or Yuris, are terrifyingly strong, capable of immense harm, and even more fun. They cannot be banished. In their belief in Japan culture and the belief they cannot be banished or fully exorcised, they can only be temporarily calmed down. It is believed that the Yuris run on desire alone. This could be anything from telling a loved one that they miss them to a desire to burn the whole world down, whatever they want, usually related to some sort of vengeance. They will fiercely seek it. Now, thankfully, they're believed to commonly be tied to specific objects or places, which allows people to generally avoid them. And a lot of Japanese spiritualists believe that the suicide forest is basically a forest full of these objects. And if you've ever seen any Japanese or inspired film, you know what these ghosts look like. The Yuri are pale women, usually dressed in a simple white dress of sorts. They have long, dark hair, often covering their faces, obscuring their identities, and they move oddly, erratically. They have no ties to the physical realm and can bend whatever laws they choose, which give them the ability to move with terrifying speed, to defy gravity, to do really crazy stuff. They can alter the living's vision in a moment's time as well, creating hallucinations or disorienting you for their own purposes. They're basically those creepy monster kids from The Grudge and The Ring, those horror movies originally made in Japan and then remade into American movies. So here's the question. Can they be stopped if you encounter one? Now, again, we're talking about Japanese culture. Well, ofunda, it's a Shinto prayer sheets, can be placed. That's called a ofunda. They're Shinto prayer sheets. They can be placed on an entrance to block or attempt to block Yuris from entering. Otherwise, your best odds are to find a way to fulfill the desire of the Yuri or simply avoid them at all costs. So maybe don't go on that nature hike, the suicide forest at all. Any property that has been the site of an unnatural death, suicide, murder, neglect, must be recorded as such. These type of residents are referred to as incident houses. This makes that property ridiculously hard to sell or even rent. So they actually believe that the Yuris indwell in homes And you have to disclose that in Japan. Realtors actually lower the prices considerably, usually 30% or even more, up to half for even murder sites. And realtors will perform cleansing rituals to appease or calm or remove a residual negative energy. It's taken quite seriously in Japan. Maybe people in Japan are killing themselves in the suicide forest because of the popularity of a few books, either directly advocating killing yourself in that location of romanticizing suicide. Maybe it has something to do with evil spirits. Maybe all the tragic deaths compounded by more and more tragic deaths over the years really have created a negative attraction, some type of pulling force that brings people at their darkest moments. Perhaps the Yuri are real, and their terrifying presence and astounding power corrupt the minds of visitors. Maybe these evil spirits call out to the brokenhearted. And maybe all of this is happening in Japan because Japan has a high rate of suicides in general. And Japan has a high rate, at least partially because of the act of suicide is not as taboo in Japan and in other countries. So why are modern Japanese killing themselves then? I understand the cultural perspective. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I get this force has been turned into a combination of literature and lore and Final Destination, but still, you need a reason to want to do that. What's this motive? Well, suicide insurance policies in Japan are different than the United States. Partly, it could be a terrible combination of financial pressure and lax insurance policies when it comes to paying out on suicides. Ken Joseph, who works at a Japanese suicide hotline, thinks this is a part of what's going on. He actually says that elderly people who are in financial trouble may see suicide as a way out of their problems. The insurance system in Japan, he says, is very lax. And when it comes to paying out for suicide, so when all else fails, some people feel that you commit suicide and the insurance will help your family. There's sometimes an intolerable pressure on the elderly that the most loving thing they can do is take their lives and thereby even provide for their family. So because of this, some experts think Japan's suicide rate is actually much higher than reported. So that might explain this. There's another reason is young men and the financial pressure. While that may explain suicide among the elderly, the insurance, the fastest growing suicide demographic in Japan is young men. It's now the single biggest killer in men in Japan from age 20 to 44. And the evidence suggests these young people are killing themselves because they have lost hope, incapable of seeking help. The numbers first began to rise after the Asian financial crisis in 1998. And that in 2008, it was a worldwide financial crisis. Remember, Japan was once known as the land of lifetime employment. But while many older people still enjoy job security and benefits, nearly 40% of young people in Japan are unable to find stable jobs. So there's many reasons, financial anxiety, stress, all kinds of reasons as to why. And I can understand that. And to be honest with you, Japan's mental healthcare system is a mess. There's an acute shortage of psychiatrists in Japan. There's also no tradition of psychiatrists working together with clinical psychologists. People suffering from mental illness may be prescribed powerful psychotropic medicines, but unlike in the West, they will often not be accompanied by recommendation that the patient seek counseling. So unlike in America and Europe, there's no government-mandated system of training or qualifying clinical psychologists. Anybody can set themselves up as a counselor. And it's very hard for someone seeking help to know whether they actually know what they're doing. So there needs to be some change. So again, I would stress for you, if suicide is never the answer. So it's believed right now that over 100 people every year choose to die in Japan's suicide forest. A combination of two popular books glamorizing taking your life in this forest. There's movies. Financial pressure may be one reason why people do this. Also, the Yuris, the belief that the Yuris are luring these people into the suicide forest. The Yuris, that many people actually believe this. we know, and I'm not a big fan of this guy at all. I don't know if he still is on YouTube or not, but Logan Paul, what a tool. He has millions and millions of subscribers. Anyway, what he decided to do, this idiot decided to do, he went to this forest and recorded it. I don't understand. He just basically, he wanted to find someone to film a video of someone who had just killed themselves. So he gets someone who is probably sad, impoverished, conventionally unsuccessful because, well, that's what he decided to, he wanted to put a camera there. So he took a trip and went to Japan's suicide forest to film a video for his YouTube channel. He went knowing that there were high odds that he would encounter a body or an active suicide attempt. And that's what happened. So he's wearing this stupid little baby kid hat. Dumb. Anyway, he doesn't take it off when he sees the body. He saw someone, a corpse that the person had just committed suicide. He didn't take this stupid hat off. And then he laughs about the whole situation, standing just a few feet away from the body that was hanging from the tree. Ridiculous. Anyway, he took 3 weeks off. It was a huge thing that was all online. He got a lot of backlash from it. He took 3 weeks off and supposedly spent time reflecting on learning about depression, whatever. But again, to his credit, he pledged $1 million to suicide prevention organizations. Okay. So there we go. I'm not really a big fan of him and what he did. I just think it was terrible, terrible. So the suicide forest is real. But again, just because the forest is known for this notorious suicide attempts by the people, it doesn't simply apply that everyone who decides to die meets their ending. It is deemed that only those people who would die, the Yuri spirits, once dead. So basically what their belief is, you're thinking about this and you go to this mountain, the forest, and the Yuris that are there through temptation, the Yuris place these thoughts in your head, and there is absolute belief that the Yuris exist there. So many who went into the forest in order to end their life came out alive, actually, from the suicide forest. There's a shop owner was interviewed by the Japan Times, and he said that he's seen various people come out of the woods after trying to do that through a failed attempt. And many survivors even had ropes around their neck. It was terrible what they did. But he took them inside. He helped them. He called an ambulance. A tourist couple once decides to wander the forest. However, soon they start having a sense of suffocation. So many people go in, they feel like they're being suffocated. As they were trying to get out of the forest, it seemed the trees took the form of a living being and tried to enclose them, they said. They made it out of the forest with the help of the tape they left at the back of them. Another mysterious fact about this place is once a couple was just wandering around the forest. They got lost, however, shown the way out by the forest by a Buddhist monk. So there's a couple who's actually reported this. They got lost. They were terrified, and they reported seeing a Buddhist monk. And this monk told them how to get out. When they returned, they told the local about their encounter with the monk. And they came to know that many believers believe that there's a monk living in the forest that deter people from ending their lives. But nobody's ever seen, has recorded this monk outside of the forest. Some people say it's a pious spirit who tries to help. Since this suicide forest bodies, there are several corpses. Japan's government passed an act of action that focuses on to lessen the rates of suicide, which they're trying. They are absolutely doing the best they can. And I talked about the book, which is ridiculous. They should never have done this. Never have written a book about how to do that. It's actually 13.5 square miles of the suicide forest. The forest is so thick with foliage. Again, it's known as a sea of trees. It's one of the most popular destinations to commit suicide, regrettably. And I've talked about how it does have a long history of this and the high rates of suicide. It's sad. It really is sad. There's a lot of people who say that this place is one of the most haunted locations in the world. Bad reputation aside, there's no place for a leisurely stroll. The forest trees organically twist and turn, their roots winding across the forest floor in treacherous threads. So because of the location, it's on the base of a mountain. Like I said, the ground is uneven. It's very rocky. But more jarring than its tricky terrain is the feeling of isolation created from the stillness. The trees are too tightly packed for winds to whip through the wildlife, and the wildlife is sparse. One visitor described it as the chasm of emptiness. And that's pretty scary. I mean, it really is. People say all the time, it's one of those things that once you go there, if you do, you can hear screams. Some believe the ghost or Yuri of those abandoned by the Ubaste and the mournful spirits of the suicidal linger in the woods. There have been people who have claimed, a friend of mine who actually went there, heard screams. And he tried to go to that location where he heard the screams, and there was nothing. There was nothing there. There was nobody there. And you can easily get lost. And that's why they say, do not leave the path. If you go and you leave the path, chances are you can get in some trouble. The internet's littered with disturbing images from the suicide forest, from abandoned personal effects, snarled in the undergrowth and human bones, and even more grisly remains. If you dare to venture into this forbidding forest, do as the signs suggest and stay on the path. But my friend, like I said, he went there, and he said he went there at, thank you very much, Shannon. He said he went there, and during the day, he said he felt like someone was watching him. But then at night, everything changes. A couple times he heard some birds, but then it was just deathly quiet. I mean, deathly quiet. And he did venture off the path, and he, of course, tied the rope just so he wouldn't get lost, and he kept going deeper and further in. And while this was around midnight or so, he kept hearing like a moan. And he thought that, okay, he was getting close to someone who was either passing away. And so he was trying to find this individual. And he got closer and closer because he wanted to help. And as he got closer to where he thought that the moan was, when he got to the location, he found a corpse. But it had been there for quite some time. There's also, he had been there where he heard a scream, a really loud scream, several times. And many times people would say that that's the Yuri. So they went to this location where the scream was coming from, and they didn't find a corpse or anything, but they did find a noose that was hanging down from the tree that apparently someone had used. But they didn't find, there was no corpse. But he was there, and it terrified him. He will not go back there because it scared him so much. But I personally, I would like to go there. I think that would be an amazing location to go to. And I think I would go there to pray for those who have passed on, because it is there's a lot of crazy things. So, all right, I have opened up the TikTok comments now, so you guys can chat with me if you want, and if you guys have questions about demonology or the forest. Of course, I'm not claiming to be an expert on the forest, but I have studied this forest for many, many years. Only because it honestly, it is majestic. When you look at it, it's beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's eerie. I mean, it really is. I can't show you pictures of. Well, you can go online, and but they're just, when you see pictures in the day, and there are people, by the way, there are lots of videos out there on YouTube where people have gone there, and They've done investigations and they've gotten some pretty interesting evidence. Yeah, they did. They did. They made a few movies. One movie is called The Forest, and the next movie, I believe, is called Sea of Trees. So, okay. Well, we believe that you can pray for the. I have, for example, I've been to locations where there was paranormal activity, but it wasn't violent. And but the family just was uncomfortable with it, and they wanted me to try to kind of fix this. So what I did is I went there, and we clearly got evidence that there was something there, but we didn't feel it wasn't what we didn't feel like it was demonic. We didn't feel threatened. And I talked about this before. Actually, their air conditioner was off. It was broke, and it was in the middle of summer in Kentucky, and it gets really hot and humid in Kentucky. So we were there, and we began praying a prayer of deliverance, praying for the deceased. And this is what I can tell you. Whatever your theology is, I can just tell you my experience, and from that, you can decide how you want to interpret it. But we began to pray. I began to pray for the intercession of their guardian angel, and for God to help them and forgive them for their sins, the absolution of sins. Bishop David was with me, and there are several other people with, and we just, all of us, we were standing in a circle praying. There was a wind, a very cold wind. It was like 95 degrees. So I had the laser, temperature gauge, and it was 95 degrees. And we all felt this very cold wind around our feet and legs. It was like circling. And so I took the laser gauge down to where it was, and it went from 95 to 65. That's a 30-degree drop in temperature. A 30-degree drop in temperature does not occur unless the air conditioner gets turned on. The air conditioner was broke, so there was no air conditioning. And so we actually documented that from 95 to 65. It was this chill, but we didn't feel threatened. And it kept going up, and then it just vanished. Everything changed in that home. Everything changed. It felt light. It didn't feel threatening. It didn't feel threatening even before, but you knew something was there. So I can tell you that we did that. Now, again, you can determine, or you can make whatever diagnostic, whatever term you want to use. All I can say is that's what happened, and it was pretty intense. It was pretty intense. Yeah, see, Kilo's asking, what is the black shadow figure I saw? Well, that would be impossible for me to answer a question like that, only because I wasn't there. People ask me all the time about shadow people. I've done lots of presentations on shadow people, lots and lots. Shadow people, there's a lot of debate on shadow people in the paranormal community. So again, let me just say this one more time, and this is important to everybody, especially on TikTok. TikTok. As I said in the very beginning of the presentation, it does look like TikTok is going to get banned in the United States. That's clear to me. It's going to happen. So TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you like, I'm going to continue I'll continue doing presentations. I'll continue going live. I'll be doing more videos on YouTube, but you got to subscribe. And very easy, youtube.com/C/Bishop James Long, all one word. Yeah, certainly we pray for those in purgatory. Absolutely. So again, okay, make sure you subscribe. And there's nothing I can do if it gets banned. I hope it doesn't, but it does look like it's going to happen. So okay. What place? We are just had a long conversation about the suicide forest in Japan. We just did an hour presentation on that, and it's a pretty intense location. I don't know if you don't know much about it, but it's Aokigahara suicide forest. So yeah, we did a whole hour presentation on that. Okay. What? Can I ask if you know something is in your home, you wake up with injuries? Okay. A lot of people ask me about scratches. Let me say this. This is very, very important to understand. There is a term, there is a term called dermatographia. Just because you wake up with scratches does not mean that you have a demon in your home. It is true. Many, many years ago, when I was on Ghost Adventures, I told Zach from Ghost Adventures, that he had the 3 scratches on the back, but there were other things that were occurring with Zach that clearly indicated to me that he was dealing with a demonic issue. Just because you have 3 scratches when you wake up doesn't mean it's demon. So you got to understand that. Dermatographia, you can scratch yourself in the middle of the night, or markings will appear on your body. That can be explained logically. So just because you wake up with scratches doesn't mean you have a demon in your home. I think we immediately sometimes go to, it's a demon, everything's a demon, and it's not. That's just simply not the case. All right. Okay. So what other questions you guys have? Because people are always asking me about, what else? So, okay. Well, an imprint on a hand or body. I mean, I see the imprint. See, again, when you say imprint on the hand or body for a hand that's on your body. Okay. Did you have a dream? Did you have a nightmare that you don't remember? Did you remember maybe smacking yourself? See, I always look at the logical first. Here, understand, if you're saying to me that let's just say that you might have a demonic issue in your home. Okay. And that demonic entity is attacking you. All right. You're going to have other issues in the home besides just when you go to sleep. If you're only having activities like when you wake up after you go to sleep and you wake up and you see a handprint on your body, it's a demonic. No, not necessarily. You could have slapped something in your dream and you actually slapped yourself. So I always look at the logical. There's always going to be more activity. If you have a demonic infestation, you're going to have more activity in your home than just you having a hand mark on your body. I do remember. I remember okay, let me just say this. I know, I'm fully aware that there is a drama going on behind the scenes in the paranormal community, and not even behind the scenes, it's right. Here's what I'm going to say. That I don't get involved in drama. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for the drama. I just don't. And I don't have the patience for it. I'm not going to, here's what I'm going to say this. People say, what you experienced at Bobby Mackey is real. I don't work for Bobby Mackey's. I don't work for Ghost Adventures. I'm not going to pretend that something is legitimate if it wasn't. I'm just not. Because I guess I don't charge for this ministry, and I've worked my butt off to establish credibility in this field. People can't say, well, you're just doing this for fame and fortune. Well, you do it for fame to get money, and I don't make money off of it. So what's the point of fame? That doesn't make sense to me. I don't do this for money. I've never done it for money. I don't charge. I don't work for Ghost Adventures. I don't work for Bobby Mackey's. I will tell you that what I experienced at Bobby Mackey's was 100% legitimate. Now, what you think and your personal opinion is irrelevant because you weren't there. I was. And people will say, well, I think it was all fake. Well, okay, but you weren't there. I think pigs can fly, but unless I see one, then I'm not going to believe it. So I just, people kind of get a little as if they were present. I was present. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm not going to pizza when you get time, get closer to, no, I don't eat pizza, but I appreciate that. All right. Well, there's nothing to believe. Yeah. See the thing, Josh Man, 1086 there on Clapper, and welcome. So Clapper, I appreciate you guys being here. Yeah, I am. It's crazy. I'm running the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I'm running it on Spreaker. I'm running it on TikTok. I'm running it on Instagram, and I'm running on Clapper. So we're rocking and rolling. So I'll be running the shows from now on Clapper as well, and Instagram too. Okay. What happened at Mackey's? Well, I was there for 3 episodes, and the first 2 episodes were investigations, and that actually was the time where I was scratched in the very back, and it was like someone had put a lighter, like 3 lighters, under my hand, and it hurt. I mean, that really hurt. I dropped my recorder and broke it, but I think that was the second episode. And then the third episode is when I performed the minor rite of exorcism there at Bobby Mackey's. And of course, the guys were there. And it was intense. It was very, very intense. And because there was a lot of personal things that were being said through the devices that we were using for investigation in the second episode. And it really, it affected the guys. It affected them terribly. So, yeah, it's, I tell people all the time, don't go looking for trouble because you might find it, Well, okay. The problem is message it, guys. I'm not, people are, look, I do the best I can with reaching out to people. I have over 12,000 messages on TikTok. I have 7,000 emails. I have 893 messages, private messages on Instant Messenger on Facebook. I'm the only person answering these emails. I'm the staff. And so you can reach out to me, and I do the very best that I can. But until I get a staff that's willing to work for free, it's we do the best we can. That's it. Oh, you're very, very welcome. Very welcome. Okay. Yeah, I'm just not gonna, I'm not gonna get involved with he said, she said kind of a thing. That's just something that I liked all the guys on Ghost Adventures, and I understand there's issues, and I'm just gonna let I'm not gonna participate in the he said, she said kind of a thing, because I like all of them, and I would rather just they work it out, Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I do. It's a lot. Oh yeah, Geraldo Rivera did a Bobby Mackey's show, and a stage light exploded. I'm sure. No, I don't regret going to Bobby Mackey's. Not at all. But Bobby Mackey's is not the only one that I've done. I've been to a lot of locations. I've been to Bobby Mackey's is just one of the places. I mean, that I've done. So no, so for me, I just kind of like, yeah, it was just one location, and the guys asked me to do it, and I did, and I have no issues about it at all. And it was an intense scene. It was an intense episode, but yeah, I've done a lot more than just Bobby Mackey's. And I know, I wish I could talk about the thing that I've done, but yeah, I've done Travel Channel, People Magazine, Sci-Fi, The Possessed, The Haunted Boy, Spooked, History Channel, A&E, Destination America, American Haunting, National Geographic, U.S. Weekly, the Paranormal Paparazzi at that time, Coast to Coast, ABC radios. So I've done quite a few of that, primarily to get the word out about the ministry, so I can help people for free. Yeah, hopefully that too. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, it is. I just kind of like to stay neutral. I just, oh, your aunt had an exorcism done. Wow. Well, Wanda Nelson says, I hope you're able to get some me time. I appreciate that. I do. I need to, but I'm not very good. I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at saying, okay, I got to push, because, and primarily, here's why. I tried a couple of years ago, I tried to go on vacation to Gatlinburg. I love Gatlinburg. I absolutely love Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Love it. And I went there, and I thought, oh, goodness gracious. I went there for a couple of days just to try to get my mind clear, just kind of get away from everything. But I knew that as soon as I came back, I was going to be slammed with emails. And I was. And it was just, what do you do? Yeah, the 3 days of darkness. People talk. Look, I've been teaching Revelation, the book of Revelation, now since January the 8th. January the 8th. And people are always asking me about the end times. Folks, please go back and watch it. Anybody who watches the Bible study, they will tell you I go verse by verse and explain everything to you. So I encourage you either go to my Facebook page or YouTube, and the current YouTube page, and it's all there. So it's all there for you. Dog animals absolutely can alert things. Yeah, no question about it. Would you ever consider taking part in a paranormal show based on your thoughts, beliefs, and practices? Here's what I told it says whatever happened to that California project you couldn't talk about. You were excited. Folks, I can't. We have a contract. I can't. I mean, I can only tell you that when we are allowed to talk about it, you will know. It's been a while. I did some filming in Los Angeles. The director said that we could say that, and it's a show. He said obviously it's a show, but as far as the details, I can't talk. I'm not allowed to. But I can tell you that I promise you, when we are given the green light to tell you all about it, you're going to know, and this show is going to be amazing because it's never been done before. That's all I can say. You have no idea. Believe me, the cast wants to tell you all about it. I'm not the only one. We are chomping at the bits because it is a really neat show. And as soon as we're able to talk about it, you're going to know. And it's an entire show. It's not just for one episode. It's an entire show. And you'll know. I promise you. I did work on with Lionsgate. I worked on the movie called Pray for the Devil as an advisor. Prey, pray to the devil. So I did help them with that movie with Lionsgate. I did also some filming just recently. I'll be appearing on an episode. I can't tell you yet, but as soon as they give me the green light, I'll talk about that and tell you all about it. So that's going to be happening soon. That'll happen sooner rather than later. So that's right. That's right. We're going to be in heaven before the tribulation. Before tribulation, we don't have to worry about it. We're in heaven. People ask me, did I see the Russell Crowe trailer for the new Exorcism? I did. I think there are some exorcists who have said, I performed thousands and thousands of exorcisms. And I think, well, you kind of need to clarify that. It's not that rampant. I've done this for over 20 years, and I have performed 30 on people who are violently possessed, and I get thousands of requests. So anybody who says, I performed thousands and thousands of exorcisms on people who are possessed, I'm like, I think that's a little bit of embellishment there. I have a hard time accepting that. That's just me. But I think they have to clarify there are different types. So you have what is called the deliverance. A deliverance is prayed when someone is under the stage of oppression. So a demonic has attached itself to a person, and it's breaking their intellect and their will down. You pray a prayer of deliverance, a removal of that attachment. There's also what's called a minor rite of exorcism. That is when a demon has infested itself within a building, and you perform an exorcism on the demonic entity to remove it. By the way, there's no such thing as performing an exorcism on a building. That's stupid. It doesn't exist. You bless a building or home. You can't perform an exorcism on a home. And then there's what's called the solemn rite. The solemn rite is reserved for an individual who is violently possessed. So to say someone has performed thousands of solemn rite of exorcism, I don't know about that one. The deliverances I can see for attachment, okay, but solemn rite, no, I don't agree with that. And by the way, here's the thing also, I've never once, never in my life have I ever recorded an exorcism and put it on social media. Never. Never have I done that. Never will I. But there have been some church denominations, some community that have, which I find that very poor form, and that should never have been done. Ever should never have been done. So I just, okay. Kim is asking, is it okay to be cremated if you're Catholic? Well, it depends on when you're talking about Catholicism. Please keep in mind, Roman Catholics are not the only Catholics in the world. People don't know that. Roman Catholics do not own the word Catholic. There are many Catholics that are not Roman. But I can tell you, because I studied in the Roman Catholic seminary for 6 years, in the Roman Catholic Church, it teaches that you can be cremated. However, you are not allowed to disperse the ashes in different places. Now, this is Roman Catholicism, if that's because you ask about that. So if you're going to be cremated, the Roman Catholic Church teaches that's okay, but the ashes must all remain in an urn. So in other words, you can't pour ashes on some ashes on one place and then go to the ocean and pour it here and then go in the ocean and in the plane and pour it out. No, they would say no. But that's hopefully that helps explain that. Okay. I agree with you, Marley. How awful for that person and their family to have something like that on a film. Actually, the Roman Catholic Church did do that. They did air an exorcism, and I was appalled by that. Appalled. Now, of course, that's been a while, but I found that to be deplorable and unacceptable and completely unacceptable. To me, that's not ever should be done ever for entertainment purposes, and I was really, really disturbed by that. So that should never done. You carry a demon with you since childhood. Well, okay, can you carry a demon with you? What you're referring to is attachment. So, yeah, it was the rite of exorcism on 2020. When you are at the age of reason, so the age of reason in the Roman Catholic Church teaches of age 12. In other words, you know the difference between right and wrong. So let's say that you play with a Ouija board, which is stupid. Don't do it, folks. Please leave those darn things alone. Leave them alone. If you play with a Ouija board and you're at the age of reason and you say, is there anything here? Can you do something? Can you make a noise? Can you push me? Whatever it might be. Or just simply using the Ouija board to allow, and this is what I don't get it. Folks, why? And I made a video on this on TikTok. Here's the problem with the Ouija board. Why would you place your hand on this planchette and you allow a spirit, allegedly, to manipulate and use your body, your fingers, your hands, to whatever message that it wants to convey? That's a problem. You are giving it permission to control your motor functions. That's invitation. And people do that all the time. So let's say you do that at age 12 or 13 or 14, and you know that it's wrong. You know the age of reason, you're allowing this. You can have an attachment. Now, people say to me, well, I played it when I was a kid, and I've played it ever since, and I've never had a problem ever. And then I say to them, yet. Just because you haven't had a problem yet doesn't mean you're not going to have a problem 5 years from now. Demonic entities exist outside of time and space. They're not restricted to time or space. So 20 years, 30 years to you is 20, 30 years, a long time. 20 or 30 years to them is a blink of an eye. So they're very patient. They can wait as long as they need to. And so it's not a good idea. Well, hello there, Wales, and hello to everyone. Yeah, it aired on 2020 on the exorcism, which I found to be unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. And I didn't like it. And I thought it was wrong. I did. So, and I believe that was a morph. I believe. But I just didn't like. I found that to be a serious problem. And here's the problem. Here's what was amazing about that. Let me just say this. They did that. They actually aired an exorcism on someone on camera, and that was okay. But in 2015, Destination America, I went to the exorcist house to perform what's called the minor rite of exorcism. And the Archdiocese of St. Louis warns of exorcism dangers before it aired. And there were some Roman Catholic clergy that said some god-awful things. And I mean really terrible, nasty things about me. And it was disgusting. It was disturbing. And I found that to be a very, very problematic, because it was a house blessing. So it was the exorcist's house. That's it. It was from the little boy who lived there. And the family had asked me in 2015, the network contacted me and said, look, the family wants you to come to the home and they want you to bless the home. And I said, okay. Now, it was, of course, they advertise it as an exorcism. But it was a blessing of a home. That's what I did. There was no exorcism performed on anybody. And my God, the things that people said, I mean, it was vicious. Roman Catholic clergy said some really nasty things on they really butchered me online. Thinking, how dare you? It was a blessing of a home. But yet, the Roman Catholic Church can perform an exorcism on a person on 2020, and that's okay. But Bishop Long goes to the exorcist's house and perform a blessing, and the end of the world has happened. It was disturbing. It's when you go online, you can see it's everywhere. It was terrible. No. I am the staff. It's me. It was. I don't know why it was allowed to be seen on TV, but it was. You can Google it, exorcism on 2020. So, very, very disturbing. Okay. Oh, thank you. Very bent on Chrome. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, Kayla, that's the Roman Catholic teaching, that when someone is cremated, their remains must remain in one urn and not separated. But that is their belief. I would disagree. So, okay. And by the way, for TikTok, I'm going to stay with you guys afterwards. We wrapped the show up around 8:50 or so. It's right now 8:33 p.m. So we still have some time, no problems. And then we wrap things up. But I'm going to stick around on TikTok for just a little bit longer after the presentation. That way, if you have any questions, you guys can come in and chat with me. I can bring you on air or bring you on the camera or whatever. So that way we can do that. Well, demons do dwell in homes. It's called demonic infestation. So that's what infestation is. So I would disagree with that. That's the Roman Catholic Church even teaches demonic infestation occurs. The Roman Catholic Church has taught now for centuries that there are 3 stages of possession: demonic infestation, demonic oppression, demonic possession. So if demonic infestation did not occur, I would respectfully disagree. Okay. Well, I agree. I would never. I've been offered a television show if I would just simply perform an exorcism on someone on camera. I had a very I had some words that I expressed to this network that they were never to contact me again. Spiritual entities. Well, people talk about malevolent spirits. What are malevolent spirits versus evil versus demonic entities? I mean, demonic entities are very clear from a theological, angelic perspective. They're fallen angels who have an extreme hatred towards us and God, and will do everything and anything that they can to cause havoc in our lives. And they've even from day one of creation, the demonic entities have tried desperately to cause humanity to fall. Now, people ask me, well, what about why do spirits remain? I think that this is my personal perspective. I don't believe that heaven is forced upon you. I think heaven is presented to us. Here's why. We know that free will has to exist in heaven. If free will did not exist in heaven, then Lucifer and the other angels would not have been able to fall. So they freely rejected God. So therefore we know through that logic that free will must exist. And I believe heaven is presented to us. And for whatever reason, people either choose to enter or not. So I think that's, for me, at least from my brain, from my mind, that makes sense. Then that's what you're very welcome. Oh yeah. Check out my paranormal films I made on the witches, trackways of Pendle. Yeah. I actually did. Oh no. There's a big difference. If you go to heaven, I think heaven is presented to you. But I do believe in heaven and hell. As a matter of fact, I am very, very passionate about that. For those of you who don't know, once again, I teach Bible study Sundays and Wednesday night. It's open to everybody. Sundays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've been teaching the book of Revelation since January the 8th, and I break it down verse by verse. I tell you everything. And so we're pretty far ahead. The next thing that I'm going to be teaching is I'm going to be teaching the books of the Bible and breaking them down and explaining to whom were they written for? What was the point? I mean, it's going to be very, very in-depth information. So that's going to be next after the book of Revelation. And then on Fridays, of course, 7 p.m., we have the paranormal. And then on Saturdays, tomorrow, we have open mic. We talk, we joke. Miss Wilma comes on. For those of you who don't know Miss Wilma, she has multiple sclerosis. I've known her for 25 years. She has a pacemaker. She's in heart failure. She just comes on and we joke around. We have a good time. And for about 30 minutes. And then I answer all your paranormal questions. Okay? All right. Freemasonry. Look. Oh, thank you, Susan. I'm welcome. I know a lot of people who are Freemasons, and I've seen all the videos about how the Freemasons are all demonic. Here's all I'm going to say to you. I know people who are Freemasons. They are some of the most loving, kind-hearted, giving Christians that I have ever met in my life. They do not worship Satan. They do not worship the devil or demons or evil. They do not reject God. They spend their time doing volunteer work. Now, that's all I'm going to say, okay? And you can take that however you wish. I'm not a big, I don't, there are some conspiracy theories that makes you, scratch your head saying, that's pretty interesting. But I think that's, sometimes it gets a little bit much, so. All right. Can I go live with you? You want to come live with me, huh, Cameron? Oh, well, that's interesting. I've never had anybody ask me on air, can I come live with you? That's the first. That is the first. Well, all righty then. Okay. I come on, everybody. Come on in, everybody. Come on. Yeah, we'll have a sit down and watch movies at the bishop's house. There we go. Presbyterian, well, welcome. Yeah, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. Yeah, but it's all good. It's all good. That's a good question. So Marley's asking. Let me post this. And again, YouTubers, listen, folks, YouTubers, if you just joined us, for everybody, please, everybody, make sure you go to my new YouTube page. All right? YouTube, I'm giving you heads up that starting out this week, I'll still run this show on this YouTube channel that you're watching. But eventually, starting on next Wednesday, I'm going to run it on my new YouTube channel from now on. Thank you very much, Mr. Producer. That's the URL right there. For those who can't see it on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It's Bishop James Long. It just makes it easier. And make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be doing a series. Once the weather gets better, I'm actually going to be doing a series. And I want you to make sure you go there. So for those of you who don't know it, again, it's youtube.com/C/Bishop James Long, Bishop James Long, all one word. And these videos will only be airing there. So I'm going to be going to several locations and kind of be doing like my own like show, if you will, but teaching too. So there we go. Can you go do it now? I go to it now. Well, I'll be airing it on Wednesday, starting officially Wednesday. So just have it. The angel recording. Well, I don't have it with me. I can do that on Sunday. I can do the angel recording on Sunday, but I don't have that. Yeah, I can't do that. I don't have it with me. So we'll do that on Sunday. There's an angel recording that was quite beautiful. So because I don't have it. Well, I do, but I'd have to stop our folks on Instagram. That wouldn't be fair to them. So, okay. Okay, what other questions you guys have? See, this is why people ask me, well, why don't you just take 2 hours of demonology questions? No way. No way. This is why I like teaching the first hour. And then on the second hour, I can go into questions and things of this nature about demonology. Otherwise, sitting here waiting for questions. No, I like to teach, and I've been doing this now for a while. And by the way, I am on Clapper, and I do like Clapper. For those of you who are on TikTok, you might want to either join Clapper, and if you don't, it's Bishop James Long. Very simple. I try to make it Bishop James Long, then make it easier for everybody. I do like Clapper. It's very, very similar to TikTok. And also make sure subscribe to YouTube. I'd love to go to Scotland. I did. I got my 5 miles in, and I even ran. So I like that. Yep, I do air my Bible study on YouTube. However, this Sunday, I don't know if I'll be able to air it on both, but just know that this one here, I'm going to make sure everybody sees this. Let me /official. This for those of you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitter. Yeah, no. I'm going to be I'm not going to be using this one anymore. It's Facebook. It's youtube.com/C/Bishop James Long /official. I'm not going to be using that much longer because it's too confusing. Even it doesn't have a whole lot of. It has like 4,000 followers, but nonetheless, I'm gonna remove that. So that's happening soon. I know inevitably somebody's going to cuss me out because, well, you didn't tell us. And how many times have I said it just in this thing today? So that you need to make sure you subscribe to. Okay. Okay. Well, sin eater. That's a cultural thing, and I can understand that. But I respect everybody's culture. Let me just say this. Everybody has a right to believe in whatever they wish to believe in. I'm not here to judge you or condemn you. That's not my place. And that's why I have friends from all walks of life. I have friends that are pagans, that are Wiccans, that are agnostic, that are Jewish, that are Buddhist, that are Muslim, that are agnostic. I have friends from all walks of life, and I love them all. And so everybody is welcome here. But we can respect each other. And so far, I think we've been really nice on TikTok, which I appreciate that. Thank you very much. No. Good question. Can someone who's possessed partake in the Holy Eucharist? No. And actually, that's one of the things that I do. That's a great question. So let me just clarify this. There's perfect possession, where that there is no relief for the possessed. That person remains in a stage of possession. And then there's a term called transient possession. No. I'm not going to have. Did you make another YouTube channel, or is this the only one you? Oh, Ghost. I've been saying this for the past 2 hours. Where have you been? There. Oh, God, give me strength. Yeah, there. Go to that one. Go to that one and subscribe, Ghost. Come on, Ghost. That is the one you want to subscribe to. Okay. Somebody see that. Dang nabbit. It threw me off. I was talking about. Hold on, I got to find out. Dang nabbit. Oh, the Eucharist, Holy Eucharist. So no. Now then there's a term called transient possession, and transient possession is when the demonic will enter the body and leave at will. Now, that is a form, in essence, of provocation. When the person receives the Holy Eucharist, many times the person will get very sick and regurgitate. So that is one way we know if the demonic has left the person, that they're able to receive the Eucharist. The Eucharist is communion, for those of you who don't know. All right. If you deal with the spirit as a child, could you as an adult have anxiety? Well, you're talking about if you had like issues with a child. Mom loves CM. If you can, I can't.com. If you can explain that, what do you mean? If you had like a spirit as a child harassing you, you have to clarify that if you would. Okay. Again, if you want to know about the church, you can go to usocc.org. usocc.org. That is the best way to reach me or to find. Let me just move this here. That is the best way. So, yeah, it's all there. Okay, so for those of you on, yeah, for Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you guys are going to be heading off here pretty soon. So just going to give you heads up. Get a heads up. Just know that that's going to happen. All right. Bless salt. Well, Saint Augustine. Well, Saint Augustine actually. Blessed salt was tasted by those preparing for baptism, and Saint Augustine actually had mentioned this, and there's it's a symbol of divine wisdom to those destined to be formed as salt of the earth. It was also used at one time in the rite of baptism itself for the salt. There's a lot of people who use blessed salt, so which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you're referring to also in Scripture, for those of you who don't know, in Numbers, okay, thank you, Mr. Producer. I believe it's Numbers chapter 18, verse 19, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Numbers chapter 18, verse 19, when it was a whatever is set aside from the holy offerings the Israelites present to the Lord. And it's an everlasting covenant, basically, of salt before the Lord. And so that's where we understand blessed salt from Numbers 18, verse 19, I believe. I think that's correct. Okay, for those of you who are in Spreaker, I'm going to say good night to you and see you soon. I want to remind everybody that tonight at, that's by Priest, that we're going to have night prayer tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And everyone's invited, so you're more than welcome. We'd love to have you. That's at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I'm staying with me for a second. Everyone, listen to this. And I want you to truly understand this, okay? Tomorrow, first of all, we're going to be here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just to let everybody know, right here, same time. Your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. My friends, you are priceless. Never let anybody convince you or tell you otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGRADB. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow night. The Sacred Division has been brought to you by Bishop Long's online paranormal course. Learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's 100% online, and you learn at your own pace. Please go to www.bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal course link.